I'm more worried than I was in October. The sun is still shining. We said, sun is shining, fix the roof. We're seeing some governments taking action, fixing their roof, taking some good structural reforms, and we're seeing clouds. We're seeing clouds on the horizon, which are of different natures. Some are big, some are not so big. Some can be dealt with. The ones that I'm concerned about include threats on trade, include a very high level of debt around the world, public and private, and also include the, in a way, good things, because as growth picks up, monetary policy is going to affect the way in which money moves around the world.
So let's take trade first of all. The reality is that, for want of a better phrase, the United States is now embarked on an America first, which some would determine as protectionist policy, and seems to be bearing some fruit with South Korea and the like. But that is the way forward. I mean, the multilateral system is no longer the principal method for the US.
Well, let's look at it that way. Trade, does it matter? It matters enormously because it fuels growth, and it was on the decline for a few years after the crisis. It is now going up, and big way, bigger than actual growth at the moment. So it's fueling growth around the world, and it is supporting investment. Those are the two big engines that are driving growth at the moment. So we need to really make sure that the best conditions under which trade prospers and develops are actually put together. Now, the US has issues, not the only one to have issues. Other countries have issues about the rising of protectionism, about some unfair trade practices, about the protection of IP around the world. What I'm saying as a strong message to all participants in this IMF meetings at the moment is these issues have to be put on the table, they have to be debated, but please do not hurt trade. Because if you do, if you question the way in which trade is conducted, then investors will say, well, why would I invest? How will I organize my supply chain?
This comes back to what you were talking about in Hong Kong, though, doesn't it? The issue of the breakdown of everything by which this building and others have governed themselves and the principles for the last 70 years.
Now, I'm more concerned about a breakdown in trust, because trust is it's the backbone of economic decision, or economic development. So if there is no trust in the way in which trade is going to be organized, in the way in which IP issues are going to be discussed, then clearly those economic deciders, the entrepreneurs, the corporate leaders, the people in the house who are going to decide where to go, what to buy, are going to wonder, you know, what are the terms and conditions of this game?
Are we at a cliff edge?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because number one, there is time to sit down and talk. What I heard many of the leaders say yesterday at the G20 meeting is we care about this multilateral process, we care about international trade, and if there are issues, they must be talked about. I think that's what needs to happen, and I hope that there is progress towards that goal on the occasion of these meetings.
The issue of debt, the report yesterday that came out, we're seeing already the problem with debt is that it's never a problem until it becomes a problem.
Correct.
And you can shout from the rooftops here about it.
Which I will.
Thank you. The rising levels of debt. But until interest rates start to tighten to the point of pain, until a country defaults and has to come to you for relief, no one's going to listen.
Well, I'll keep on shouting, because I think that the burden of debt that we are adding to corporates, to countries, whether they are advanced, middle income, low income, is actually going to weigh on the shoulders not only of those who are deciding today, but of the young people of tomorrow, assuming we can actually get there. So $164 trillion of debt is 225% of global GDP. We are borrowing more than 2 years of our creation of economic value. This is a lot, and it has been addictive for many years because the interest rates were so low.
The US is the worst offender at the moment with the fiscal deficit and the future plans and the tax cuts, which had some good measures attached to them. But this country, the largest economy in the world, is going in the opposite direction to that which you're talking about.
I think all governments have to look at their debt level, they have to look at their debt service, and they have to be mindful of what is sustainable in the long term. When you are the reserve currency of the world, it puts you in a more comfortable position, but it doesn't guarantee the future and the public finance of the future. That is what needs to be looked at. Entitlements of, 5, 6, 10 years down the road. Can we afford it? Or shouldn't we take measures now to indicate that while we have an upswing in growth, which is the case, they should be restrained on the fiscal deficit? Yes.
Finally, we meet twice a year, more frequently, and we
With great pleasure.
I know, we love it. And we discuss these issues. Do you get the feeling progress is being made? Because we do seem to have been in a situation, and yes, I'm not going to mince words, probably as a result of the change of the administration in Washington, some would say, of 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
If I look at numbers, we've made huge progress. The banks are more solid, the ratios are much higher in terms of protection, and the growth is here. 3.9% twice in a row is really remarkable. But we need to build for the future, and we need to do so in a more cooperative, in a more multilateral way.